Hi, everybody. Welcome back to RVAsec 2024. That's RVAsec 13, the 13th year, this year at the Marriott Richmond, June 4th to 5th, 2024. My next guest, Miss Jennifer Shannon. She's a senior security consultant for SecureIdeas.com. Miss Jennifer, welcome.
Hello.
The title of your show is API-ocalypse now. And I didn't pronounce that correctly, but very clever, by the way, bringing in the Apocalypse Now theme. I'm intrigued by this. Our topic is your discussion that you're going to have, or your talk at RVAsec. You're going to look at APIs from a threat actor's perspective and cover the most common issues found in APIs. So I like to always kind of start out with the acronyms and explain them to people, because we have a lot of people that are learning from the shows we watch that don't know what an API is. So let's give us an overview of that and why that's so important, and then we'll start getting into some other questions.
So an API, because this industry loves their acronyms.
We do.
It stands for Application Programming Interface, and the way that I have always described APIs is they're kind of like a waiter at a restaurant. They're designed for computer-computer communication, and so at home, I have everything I need to make spaghetti. I have pasta sauce. I have the pasta. I can cook it. But if I want a brick oven pizza, I'm going to have to go to a pizzeria. But they don't want to let me just walk into their kitchen and start making pizza using their stuff. I have to give my order to the waiter, and the waiter will take my order to the restaurant or to the kitchen, and they'll make it for me, give it to the waiter, and he'll bring it back. So when companies like Facebook need to give us access to some of their actual internal infrastructure, they'll set up APIs to facilitate that computer-to-computer communication.
Now, how did you decide on this title, API-ocalypse now? Given your young age, I'm impressed that you know that movie. It's an oldie, right? That's my age, my generation. But it is a great title. And I don't know as much about cybersecurity, of course, as you do, but I taught myself, started 10 years ago. And API was one of the first things I learned. And I said to myself, coming from a physical security world, oh, we got a lot of problems here. This is not going to be good in the future. And it seems like we've gotten better. We've kind of gone back and forth. But where'd you come up with that title? That's great.
So originally, I wanted to write this talk from the perspective of a threat actor so that I could showcase when a malicious person is interacting with an API, things that they might look for. And APIs by themselves can be kind of boring. So I was like, well, let's give it a theme. And originally I kind of had like this idea for Fallout, because I'm a huge fan of apocalypse media and a huge fan of the Fallout universe as a whole. But I thought maybe that was a little bit too niche. And so after kind of sitting on it for a while, I was like, oh, well, there's the Apocalypse Now movie, which is infamous to say the least. And it's one of those movies that just kind of always like really stuck with me, like the name of it, everything about it. And so it kind of ended up being what took over the overall theme for the API talk. And the title came after. I was like, oh, this is perfect.
I think it is perfect. And you know what? Fallout would have been good too, I got to say. My kids had Fallout when they were young, and I've watched the new series on Netflix. It's fantastic. Now, what draws you to pen testing APIs? It's I'm not going to say it's a niche vertical, but not everybody does that. It's very specific.
So interestingly enough, a lot of my coworkers have a development background. I don't have a development background. My background's in reverse engineering. So I'm really good at the deconstructing part of things. I'm not really good at constructing. But somewhere between 8 to 10 years ago, whenever I started pen testing web applications, I would encounter maybe 1 to 2 APIs a year. Well, more realistically, probably 3 or 4 a year. And now in the year 2024, I encounter roughly 2 to 4 API pen tests a month. So the popularity and the overall use of APIs has exploded. And I remember when I first started with APIs, I was just completely lost on how they worked, how to start testing them, what to do with them. So I built up this knowledge over time, and I want to share that with people because APIs currently make up over 80% of the internet traffic. They are a foundation for our digital infrastructure, and it's really important to keep the security of them in mind. And so I want people to be able to look at them in a way that will allow them to develop more secure APIs.
I remember back in the day, I got my first computer in 1984. Okay, so that's how far back I go on this stuff. And before we had APIs, you had proprietary BIOS. And if your program didn't match that guy's program, sorry, pal, that's not going to work. But guess what? No breaches, right? So it's a trade-off for sure. You're going to be doing some live demos for this talk. That's pretty exciting. Tell me what some of the challenges are with that.
So I want to say it's probably 8 out of 10 times I get through the live demo just fine. And I like to do the live demo because I'm going to be asking myself questions out loud so people can see, like, whenever I'm testing an API, what is it that I'm asking myself? What is leading me to these conclusions? And they get to see the successes and the failures, because failures are really real part of pen testing. I'm not always successful in what I do, and I like to be able to showcase both sides of that. There have been a few challenges, though. There was one time I did it on a live stream, and my VM crashed and burned like right as we started the stream. And whenever I got the VM back up, it had reverted to a default state and did not have any of the labs or anything installed. So I kind of had to pivot and instead talk about the API top 10 and just impromptu just talk about all of those issues for an hour. And then the other time, Postman is something that I use frequently during the live demos. Postman signed me out and would not let me sign back in, so I couldn't do anything. So I was like, well, let me walk you through everything. I have all these screenshots. Let's talk about how I got there. So I think an important part of doing live demos is being able to think on your feet whenever things inevitably go wrong.
Oh, I hear you on that one. I did Black Hat remotely one year, 100 interviews. That was all live. That was a challenge. So I completely understand that.
Oh, I bet.
Jennifer, this sounds like a really interesting talk at RVAsec. I'm not going to be there this year. It's my favorite show. I love Jake. I just can't travel for other reasons, but maybe next year we'll meet in person. So I wish you very good luck, and I want everybody to make sure they go to rvasec.com and register to hear Jennifer speak. SecurityIdeas.com, Senior Security Consultant. Ms. Jennifer, thanks for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you.